Hi. Reasons for going keto. Number one for me, because I used to have boobs out here, I don't anymore, as you can see. And I love my apron, Kim, thank you. Killing cancer cells through starvation. I'm going to write down a name in just a moment. Dr. Thomas Seyfried, Seyfried, has determined through clinical research that cancer may just be a metabolic mitochondrial disorder, starting in our very cells inside our mitochondria. If we ingest enough glucose over time, it compromises our cellular structure, our mitochondria, causing them to mutate. And when they mutate, and you continue to feed glucose, cancer cells metastasize. They replicate, they spread. And before you know it, you're a stage 3. Your lymph nodes are compromised. You have a 2-inch tumor on your ribcage that is hard and unmoving. And then you have another tumor, 7 o'clock region. And then you have a PET scan, which is a positron emission tomography scan. And that is when you are keto for 72 hours. And basically cruciferous vegetables, fatty protein, and maybe a little bit of berries for 72 hours. And then you go in that morning, you're fasting for 12 hours, and they give you a bolus of glucose that has a radioactive tracer in it. And then you take a nap for about 45 minutes to an hour. And what you need to do is you go into the radiation lab, you lay down and you hold absolutely still and take shallow breaths. And they run a scan, top to bottom. You want, especially if you are beyond a stage 2, stage 3 means it's metastasized, it means it's moved elsewhere. If it's been determined that you may be a stage 2, just like my oncology doctor thought I was a stage 4 or terminal, that you want a PET scan from scalp to toenails. You want the full one. That takes longer. That takes about 2 hours. The first one takes about, just the scalp to your knees. I'm sorry, not knees. To your hips. That takes about an hour of scanning. The other one, you had to get up, turn around, and they scan you from feet up. And this is a huge, expensive test. It's basically brand new. And anyway, you need to look into it, because after that 45-minute nap, basically that glucose is stolen. First it hits your brain, then it's stolen by the cancer cells, and those areas light up like Christmas lights all over. Big glowing orange sites. And as you've probably seen from my introductory video where I showed you my May 11th, 2017 PET scan, then I showed you my November 2017 PET scan when the cancer is gone. Dr. Thomas Seyfried basically is determining if you have a ketogenic lifestyle, if you eat ice cream and cake and dairy and butter and bacon and prime rib and halibut and oh my gosh, all these wonderful foods. Bread, still made with yeast, but with oat husk fiber, which is insoluble, goes right through you. If you have bread made with vital wheat protein, or vital wheat gluten, which is the insoluble protein of the wheat berry, goes right through you. You can still have sandwiches and French toast. You can have all these things. You just have to think and stop eating sugar. Stop eating simple carbohydrates that break down into sugar. It's not easy. You're going to have to do your own cooking. You're going to have to do your own baking. And what I am trying to do is to show you how I do ours. I'm not a baker. I'm not a chef. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm the daughter of a nurse, but that's nothing. I am a cancer survivor. I did have type 2 diabetes. And that leads to my second doctor. Look this guy up, Dr. Thomas Seyfried. He is the professor of biology and genetics at Boston College. If you want, probably the easiest thing to do is to go to YouTube and type in Dr. Thomas Seyfried. Even better, for those of you who want to know about his published works in the United States Medical Library of Medicine, go to PMI, okay? Or, and this is the website. This is, it stands, and I know it sounds weird, for the United States National Library of Medicine, okay? And you can look at all of his published works. In fact, with regard to the ketogenic diet, if you type in ketogenic diet, you'll see over 4,428, and that was as of this morning, filed documents. Dr. Jeff Volek, Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. Westman, Dr. Hallberg, all of these people for different reasons with regard to the ketogenic diet. Next person I want to talk about is Dr. Sarah Hallberg. This woman, quite literally, whether she's aware of it or not, helped me save my life. I've said it before. I want you to go on YouTube to TED Talks. I think there's an X in there. And look at Dr. Sarah Hallberg. You're going to see her. She is wearing a black little sweater vest. She's wearing beautiful teal blue pants and a kind of a corresponding and complementary blouse. 15 minutes, and it's worth your time. I watched it no less than 25 times, no less. What had happened was June 2016, we went to our doctor. We went in for our annual physical, and I was 352 pounds. Here, I'll put in the picture what I look like. And wow, doctor came into the room. He was furious. He said, I need you to go on metformin right now. I'm going to write your prescription right now. And I need you and your youngest son, whose A1C is also over 9, to come in tomorrow for more extensive lab work, because both of you need to have insulin. And I kind of shuddered inside, and I'm like, my mom is insulin-dependent diabetic and has been for decades. My father was diabetic. My former mother-in-law, my children's natural father, diabetic, runs in both families. It's genetic, right? It's not my fault, right? No, it's wrong. It's my fault. Went home, cried like a little girl, and then I got mad because I'm to blame. Long story condensed, my father was one of 16 children, 4 of whom I believe died because of medical issues when they were young. One I know was a burst appendix in a cotton field, and they weren't able to get to a physician in time. But they grew up beans and tortillas. They grew up with carbohydrates, but they worked hard every day. There was no obesity back then. In fact, from my uncles and my aunts, it's my understanding that my paternal grandfather and grandmother often went to bed hungry, making sure that their children's bellies were full as they could be. They taught me, through my father, how to cook frugally. That means beans and cornbread, biscuits and pancakes and bread, and I cooked frugally, which means carbohydrates. In 2014, I retired from my former position and I took over homeschooling for my children. Very, very thankful I did. But I continue to cook as if I were feeding loggers instead of sedentary, homebound children sitting at their desk over 8 hours a day. And I ate that way too. I did this to myself. It's my fault. So, that being said, I said no, and I went on to YouTube. I typed in on YouTube in the search bar, a little magnifying glass, how to reverse type 2 diabetes. First hit, Dr. Sarah Hallberg. This video, she said that she's an obesity doctor, and she has taken her patients off insulin, at hundreds of units of insulin, off their glucophage, off their medications. All this she was able to do within weeks. I followed everything she said. I did everything after I talked to my family and got their agreement and permission to do this radical change. We went through our pantries, we went through our cabinets, we went through everything. Anything that had grains, had sugar, had corn, anything that had corn syrup. We got rid of anything that was not ketogenic. Potatoes, rice, the whole 9 yards. Boxed meals, noodles, pastas. We got rid of all of it because 2 reasons. First one, if it's here, we're going to eat it. Second reason is at that time we had a good friend of our church family who worked at the gospel mission said that they have people walking in who have nothing. They've lost everything for whatever reason. And we had 4 trips, almost 2 hours one way, and we took everything to them. How did that affect your heart and mind when you saw those people?
It hurt to see all those people that were hungry and hurting.
And remember what their faces looked like when you...
Their faces lit up when they saw the food.
Yeah, box after box after box.
3 cartloads.
At least, yeah. Call Walmart ahead of time, call the produce department, and reserve banana boxes, oranges, apple boxes, and they'll be happy to accommodate. Otherwise, they just squish them all down. But you have to call ahead. Anyway, that's a segue. Dr. Sarah Hallberg, regarding diabetes. I will put a link in the description box regarding, okay, you will, sorry, regarding this TED Talk. And she has her own YouTube channel called FitterU, F-I-T-T-E-R-U. And she will be absolutely wonderful in explaining. She is so knowledgeable. Oh gosh, I can't say enough about her. I adore her. Also, there's a recent interview with, I forgot his name, very nice guy. I think his name was Mike, with High Intensity Health. He's based out of Seattle. That's his YouTube channel, by the way, High Intensity Health, and outstanding interviews with all kinds of doctors, physicians, clinicians, researchers. Please check out his channel. Anyway, next we're going to talk about why we did this. I lost in 4 months, I lost 40 pounds. Connor, I think, lost just under that. Our A1Cs went from over 9 to 5.0, and I think 5.1 for Connor. And it was wonderful. I lost so much weight. My skin was softer, more pliable. And I am convinced if it hadn't been, we would never have found the tumor in time. My oncologist told me, meeting me eye to eye, that he thought I had stage 4 breast cancer and ductal carcinoma. and that when he found out the results of the PET scan, he said, I am very grateful, Kathleen, to sign curative care paperwork for you to start chemotherapy treatment instead of signing off on palliative care to keep you comfortable until you die. And it was a very emotional moment for me. But I went home and I went back to YouTube. How to cure cancer. I typed it in. And I found Dr. Thomas Seyfried. And I found low carb down under. That is very important. You have got to check out this channel. Low carb down under. And when you do, you're going to find a whole bunch of doctors. Gosh, I love them all. Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. Gary Tobbs, Dr. Gary Fettke. Wonderful people. Dr. Eric Westman. They have been on this channel. They have been to high-fat, low-carb conferences. Dietitians. There's one, her name. She's wonderful. She also has research showing how to starve cancer cells by following a restricted ketogenic diet. You can have delicious, comforting, filling foods and kill your cancer. I'm living proof. And I accepted this calling because I think I was given cancer for a reason. I'm not a shy person. I'm a confrontational person. I'm not a quiet person at all, am I?
No, you're not.
If something is broken, I'm going to do my best to fix it. If I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to do my best to find it. And I want to help you help yourself. That's basically it. I'm going to show you how I cook for my family. How I have heard the news, your cancer is dead. One more thing I want to bring up with you that's very personal to me is during my bilateral mastectomy where my breasts were cut away, at some point a small area of skin, by the way, I have this skin saving procedure, so I'm not totally flat chested. There's some skin there that can be used later on to form breasts later on. I'll get to that. But an area was not reconnected correctly, or I have no idea what happened really. But a seroma occurred. That is an area where the skin did not receive adequate blood flow for a long enough period of time and became compromised and needed to be excised or debrided. I went to my surgeon's office about a week later, and it was definitely in need of debridement. When he took off this small piece of skin that was becoming necrotic, I had a pocket underneath that basically I could have smuggled a small navel orange in if I wanted to. I mean, it was pretty gross. And when I left, I was told to pack it with, saline soaked gauze pads. They gave me some 2x2s, and I soaked that with the saline wash they gave me, and to keep it packed, and then keep a dry dressing on top, and then you should be fine. I went one other time, and they said, oh, it looks looking good, nice and clean and pink, and good granulation, blah blah blah. And then I was told, don't come back to the office here, go to the wound care clinic. It's right across the quad. Okay. So my husband and I went across I think it was about a week later. And unbeknownst to me, my surgeon's staff had contacted the director of the wound care clinic. And also unbeknownst to me, told him that I would probably require a wound vac. It's a healing device. Basically, a piece of tegaderm or some kind of plastic is put over the wound and attached to a vacuum, and oxygen is removed. And basically, like a seal meal for my chest. It's basically to help things grow faster, bring more blood flow to the surface, and cause more and more granulation and eventually to close. When my husband and I walked in there, we saw patient after patient with edema, swelling, thrombosis, open sores. I wouldn't say festering, but definitely not healthy looking skin at various stages. Most of them were not ambulatory. They weren't able to walk. They were on scooters or, and it was depressing as hell. No one was smiling. No one was happy to be there. And I walk in there and I introduce myself and I go back into the room, and the RN, he takes off my dressing, and his eyes just open wide, eyebrows shoot up to his scalp, and he's like, when did you have your surgery? And I said, about 2.5 weeks ago. Okay. He apparently had read my records, thought that I would need this wound vac. He went and got the director and the PA that was on staff that day. Both of them came in, and the director had the wound vac. He was going to explain it to me, and he said, she doesn't need this. And then the PA said, wow, you must be eating a lot of protein. And I said, no, I have been following a ketogenic diet. You don't eat a lot of protein on that. And both of them just looked at me like I had just sprouted a second head. They had no idea what the hell I was talking about. In their estimation, I had about 3 weeks of healthy growth of skin. My wound was about 4 inches wide, about 2.5 inches deep, and 2 months later, completely healed. I had great granulation, great circulation, and I took the pictures to show. I wanted to show in my records, and I'm not going to show this on here. It's kind of gross. Looks like a little rectum. But, and then it's nothing. Sorry. I want to be honest. But seriously, it went, and then went away. And 2 months. I found out by asking the doctor, how many of your patients are diabetic? And he looked at me and then looked at the floor and said 99%. Those are the people who don't have all their toes, may not have 2 feet, may not have most of some skin in some areas. And they don't know. I contacted the chief dietitian at the hospital where I had my surgery, and because I felt disconvicted, I needed to get in contact with someone who might have some power. Because the morning after my mastectomy, I was given a food tray that had ice cream, pudding, toast with jelly, and I want to say breakfast cereal and a carton of milk in case I was hungry. All those items are cheap, easy to get, and shelf stable, except for milk. And I said, no, I don't want to feed my cancer. I don't. And the doctor got very pissed at me. You need to eat. I can't eat this. If you have some protein, some butter, some eggs, some bacon, even a salad. And that person never came back, that floor doctor. he wouldn't return. And I wouldn't touch the food. And it was about 20 hours later when I finally got up out of my bed. Yes, I'm on pain medications. I got dressed and I was almost out the door before the floor nurse came in to say, wait, we haven't done your discharge. I was starving. And anyway, that's what they feed us. And we're in the hospital. That's what they feed patients. That's what they feed their staff. And it took me about 3 months to finally hear back from this dietitian. And she said, look, all of your zealotry and your emotional testimonials don't mean anything. I need actual documentation. So I went to PMI online and I found about 10 really good with pie charts and lab results and actual pictures of specimens. Dr. Thomas Seyfried, he used lab rats. He gave one part of the rats, one section, he gave them various tumors, glioblastoma, brain tumor, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, just different types. And, I'm sorry, all the rats, forgive me, all the rats. And one part, he gave a ketogenic diet. The other part, he gave the standard American diet. These rats died. These rats not only lived, their tumors went away completely. They were healthy. No evidence of any kind of tumors whatsoever. No one is listening because there's no money in it. There's no money in me reversing my diabetes. Money isn't going to the insulin companies or the syringe companies or anyone. Stop eating sugar. That's really all I have to say that I can speak personally about. I will put on a list of videos in the description box that I usually go to when I'm on Facebook under Kathleen Dexter. It's public. Feel free to take a look if you want. But I'll try to help you however I can.
This diet helps with depression. I had a lot of depression before the diet because I was bullied, and after the diet, just recently I told Mom about it. And the suicide attempts, after the diet, I felt better, and I haven't tried anything in a long time. My mom never knew about it until recently. It does help.
What made you want to share that?
You wanted to know why I was so down, and I just felt like sharing it with you. I had already shared it with Aiden because, you know, he suffers from it too sometimes. And, you know, we went camping recently and I told him about it. And so...
He is an incredible man.
Yes.
We love you, Aiden. You helped me. You gave me the guts to start this channel. Thank you. I had no idea that you were suffering. You always seem happy. I have a question. It just occurred to me. Look at me. Do you think those who might be suffering with depression, if they had found the keto diet, would they have more of an even keel? Anthony Bourdain just committed suicide. Robin Williams committed suicide. what if? Right? They might still be here among us, bringing us joy and profanity. What if? Thank you. I love you. All right, let's stop this. Bye. Are you gonna pose? No. Now look. Do I look better now that I dyed my hair, or do I look like
Yes.
Bozo the Clown?
No, you look better.
You sure?
You look way
Yeah.
better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, stop that. Now look right there.
Brr.